First up is Matt. Okay. Looks like this is the blend shape off of an imported file, so I'll delete that. And let's find these guys. I'm going to right mouse click, go to reveal selected. Click that open. Looks like these are not in groups, which means that yes, somehow these got, looks like they were in groups before, and then you selected all of them and put them in one big group here, and that is going to be a problem because if you want to include the teeth or tongue in the blend shapes, they need to be in identically matching hierarchies, meaning that you would select each of the group nodes, which included underneath it, you know, the head sphere, the teeth sphere, the teeth, etc., etc. It would have all the shapes and all in the same order for each of the groups. So by putting all these in one group, you kind of mess that up. What you can still do is you can select these shapes, as long as you don't use the teeth or tongue, it'll be okay. But what you should have done is left them in their groups, name those groups according to the shape, and then when you create the blend shape, select the group nodes, not these shape nodes. Let's take a look at the shapes you've done anyways. Okay, that's a little problematic because we're seeing, you know, like sort of these areas of the teeth, so you'd want to adjust the teeth for that. That wide is very subtle, so I would go more exaggerated than that. You can always, you know, you don't have to use the full length of this, so it's better to exaggerate the shapes more and then give you some creative freedom to use, you know, more or less of it. One thing you can do is sometimes you can get a shape that works by typing in a higher number there, and what it's doing essentially is just moving further in the same direction. That one doesn't seem to be changed. Yeah, and again, I would go bigger on the frown. Snarl looks good. So you definitely need a O or U shape where it forms a small circle. That's an important one. Other good ones to add are like the FV shape where the character is sort of biting the lower lip, and the MBP shape where it's sort of the lips are kind of curled in. Yeah, so and then other, you know, maybe a bigger open mouth one that's more about the bottom jaw going down. And in that case, you do need the teeth to move with it, which means you do need these group nodes set up. So I would say take a step. You could sort these out, put everything in its appropriate group, make sure it's in the exact same order in each group, and it would work. Or you could just start over and just make sure you duplicate the group and make sure you don't, you know, ungroup them the way you did. What I suspect you did is you like highlighted all those shapes and then said group, and then it pulled them out of these groups and put them into one big group. And if you did want them in one big group, the thing to have done was to select all the group nodes and group those together. So yeah, if I was doing this, I would take a step back because the shapes need some work anyways, and you should get the teeth involved anyways. Make sure when you're working on your teeth, if you use your teeth, do not just pick the teeth and move them if you need to adjust them. That will not work. You need to select the vertices of the teeth and move those vertices to have the blend shape recognize that change. So yeah, I would take a step back and get those groups fixed up and exaggerate your shapes more and add the ones that I mentioned as well. Next up is Lindsey. And so if this is your main head, let's see your animation editors, blend shapes. Okay, so it looks like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So It's odd that, oh, okay, that's just the tongue one, but we don't have one for the rest of the mouth. So typically you would want your base shape, that is this shape, in a more neutral pose. Um, really not unlike, well, no, that one's, yeah, so sort of like that head one. So I would tend to make that more like that head one. And there's actually kind of a cool trick to that. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one for now. If I select this one and then this one, and then in the animation menus, create deformers, blend shape, and then put that in that pose. Whoa. Okay, yeah, this is gonna be a problem. Oh no, I think that's the lattice acting up right now. So let's first of all delete history off this guy. And then let's try that and see if it goes crazy on us. Okay. So this being a more neutral shape, if you wanted to start out with that as your base shape, what you can do is after you put it in that position on this one, delete history. And now that can be your base shape, although it does have some issues here, a little pinching there, but let's just leave that for now. So then, are these groups? Good. So the thing to do would be to name each of these groups. I might just skip over this one now because that was the base shape. And I don't know, let's call this one open. And I don't know, open wide or smile. Etc. Frown. Maybe that one's O. Something like that. And then you should be able to select those groups. And then, is this in a group? Yeah, it is. Might have messed it up by deleting that blend shape, but let's see. Group 4. Okay, let's see if that worked. Yeah, looks all right. Good. Okay, and the good thing on this one is they're kind of exaggerated. The issue I would say is you would benefit from one that's more, I mean, you sort of have this U shape, but if you could make the O shape kind of smaller and more narrow, that would be better. And yeah, and maybe one or more two facial expressions could, just not so much for talking, but for expressing emotions could be helpful. Next up is Vanessa. While we're here, as I mentioned before, I believe you're going to need some additional isoparms in the body and skirt. I showed how you can select the, let me just isolate this one, how you can select the bottom and top isoparm, and then in the surfaces menu, go to edit NURBS, insert isoparms options, and choose between selections, and like say 8, and then that'll improve that. So, but we're here to focus on the blend shapes. So, and they haven't been created yet. Are these guys in groups? Okay, they are in one big group. Oh, and they are in a series of groups. Good. So yeah, it looks like you've named these, but I would recommend shortening these names because they're going to be impossible to read on the blend shape editor. Will only show the beginning, so it'll look like they're all called like head lattice. So you can go ahead and change all these. And yeah, so I can take all those, this one last, animation, create deformers, blend shape. So before I begin, it looks like the default shape is got kind of overlapping parts of the surface, and it makes things a little messy. So you may want to kind of tidy that up by pulling those down a bit before making the blend shape. But let's take a look at the open. Looks good. So that's a smile, but I would expect it to kind of be more up at the corners. It might be as simple as sort of lowering the middle there. One good trick is if you change it on these target shapes, it should change it on the blend shape too. So maybe more like that, and then maybe pulling these up as well a bit more. Maybe these guys. Well, it looks more a little smiley, more smiley to me. Yeah. I think you could come in a bit more narrow here. One good trick for that is if I right mouse click, grab some of these holes, I can just scale those in. Hey, why does it? Oh, you know what? I should not be doing that here. I should be doing that on this shape, the target shape. Well, see, doing too much there. Probably not that one. Just control click that. Better. Then maybe scale these two guys out a little bit to get it a little bit more round. And then maybe scale it in even more. A nice narrow O shape. And as I mentioned on a previous one, you don't really don't like that base shape. I didn't notice that intersecting there before, but I think you need to work on that base shape a little bit and get rid of this sort of crazy mouth thing. Get something much more neutral. I can show you a quick trick for that. Let's go ahead and delete this. And let's look at the one of these we think is starting as the most neutral. It's actually funny that you have a T shape. It brings up an interesting point, which is that the T sound happens inside the mouth, where the tongue touches the roof of your mouth. And your lips can do anything they want. Try making the T sound with a variety of different mouth shapes. I can kind of do anything I want with my lips, and I can still make the T sound. So there isn't really a T mouth shape. There is an F and V mouth shape, and there's an MBP mouth shape. So MBP is all the same shape. F and V are the same shape. But those are the only kind of phoneme shapes. So let's say I think this is pretty close to neutral. So what I'm going to do is to kind of reset the base shape is I'm going to select that, shift select the base shape, create deformers, blend shape, put this to the top, then with this one selected, delete history. And now that's this shape, and then I would have to go in and kind of model a little bit to get this to a more neutral shape, since the one you have, I would argue, is not. I feel like I'm missing some. Let's do this. Let's grab the hull to help us select all the way around, and then change to vertex, and then deselect the top ones there. I can pull these out a little bit, maybe deselect these and pull that out a little bit. Maybe a bit more. Actually, these look like they can go back some. Yeah. And then maybe use the hulls to kind of help close the mouth a little bit. Just gonna R for scale and sort of close the mouth in a more neutral shape. So now my base shape is more neutral. And then I can remake these. I'll select all of these, select the head one last, create the blend shapes again, grab our blend shape editor, and yeah, better. The smile goes a little low. You might want to just pull the whole thing up. So without the teeth showing here, I don't know where your teeth are on these. Are they hidden or upper teeth, lower teeth? Oh, there's those sounds. Yeah. Why am I not? Oh, they're just completely outside of the range of the mouth. So you're going to want to move those back into position, so that we can see them. I'm not sure, why that happened, but and is it like that for all of them, or looks like they've been moved here. 1.571. So one thing to think about is that when you're adjusting blend shapes, you cannot just pick an object and move it. You have to select the verts of the object and move it. So even if you want to move the whole top row of teeth for a blend shape so that it moves with the blend shape, you actually have to select all the vertices of that top row of teeth. Okay. But yeah, I think this, there's a couple improvements here, but overall you got it working. Next up is Megan. So first thing I noticed is these names, and it says group 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What I'm guessing is that you created the blend shape and then named them afterwards. So you can always delete it and then recreate the blend shape, or rename them in here, either way. So it's, we don't, it's harder to know what you're going for. The wide is good. Not sure what that's. Let's go ahead and do that, actually. Let's try. Oh, those aren't. I see. Oh, okay. So they're all in there. And these are not your shapes at all, I take it. Okay, a little confusing. So, um, so yeah, I would, you know, rename all these, but yeah, it's hard to know what you're going for with each one. So yeah, that's working well. Got the teeth working wide. Um, yeah, it looks like that's sort of a teeth moving up and down one. And a snarl. Good. So I think that what you would benefit from is a narrow one, like a O or U shape, um, and then maybe a smile or something, or a frown. I guess there is a frown, but it's very subtle. So it's helpful to exaggerate more on your blend shapes because you don't have to use the full range, but it's nice to have it. Like if I and it is possible to do this. I can type in 2 or even 3, but it's a little bit unpredictable to do that. So it's just going to move the vertices that much further in the direction that you move them, which doesn't necessarily make a good shape, but it might be usable, but it might not. Um, yeah, okay, so name those groups and create the blend shape, and yeah, maybe exaggerate your shapes a bit more. Next up is Chris. Just gonna hide the lattices here so I can see this a bit better. Show formers, I guess. Okay. Right. And as with the other ones, you'll want to delete the prefix off of these so that otherwise the names won't show up in the blend shape. It'll all you'll see in the blend shape editor is the prefix. I'll leave the prefix on a couple of them just so you can see. I'll just do it on the last one. Which is, okay, that one. So select all these, control click that one, create deformers, blend shape. So you'll see, did I leave it on? Oh, did it take that prefix off by itself? Oh, okay, that's interesting. So let's take a look. Okay, something's gone berserk here, and I think it's the lattice is making this go crazy. So let's delete that, and if I show deformers here, you'll see that if I delete history off of this surface, delete by type history, it'll get rid of that lattice for me. So let's try this again. I did not like that. But I think what's happening, if we look closely when we do this, is it's like making it pop out of that lattice, and then the mouth kind of explodes. So I'll just go ahead and delete history off all of these, which means you'll lose the lattice. So hopefully you're done editing with the lattice. And hopefully now the blend shape will work. Yes. No, nice big exaggerated shapes. Although those two look about the same to me. That's good, although I might go a little smaller, like vertically. P and B. Now, the FV shape, you're sort of biting your lower lip. So you probably went too high here. And I think part of the problem is the teeth are so high in this model that you'll want those teeth lower so that the lip has a fighting chance to, interact with that because it's just way too high. So overall, I would say the teeth should be lower in these. Um, uh, Really, the uh and w is actually the OU shape. If you say like 10 W's in a row, what it sounds like is ooh. It just sounds like ooh, ooh. So it's just a W is really an ooh sound that's rapidly followed by another vowel sound, but it's really ooh. Um, so when you're starting a word with W, you start it with the ooh shape, which is that, but maybe smaller. Ooh, but smaller. Yeah, and la is a sound inside the mouth, so it's the tongue touching the kind of the back of the front teeth at the top of the mouth, kind of. So um, it doesn't really have an associated mouth shape with it. And as we don't really see the tongue very much at all when someone's talking, it's not that important to do the tongue shapes. Um, Consonants, yeah, that's just way too wide for consonants. And again, yeah, there wouldn't be any one mouth shape for all consonants. So yeah, make this one smaller, and you can simplify some of those. It's good that you're thinking through these different sounds, although some of them aren't right on. And I think adjusting the teeth position is going to help you with that. Some of those shapes, like if you want to do the FV shape and the MVP shape. Next up is Teegan, and yeah, very cool hat um, with a hat pin there and the side folded up. It's kind of a cool look. Like the shirt pocket and the holster is looking good. Um, Focusing in on the blend shapes. So it looks like there's two sets here. Not sure which ones. That's a good F shape, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. About it sort of has that look like it's biting the lower lip. So yeah, you've got a tongue one, but it's got that big mouth movement there. We're seeing that's a weird shape. That's not really gonna work. Um, Small eam. I would think of a gasp as more that the jaw is dropping open, like you're opening your mouth wide to get more air in. So it's sort of weird to have this top lip go up so high. Um, so yeah, I think some of these, the F really like open is fine. Although maybe you want to show some of the top teeth, so keep this a little higher, and you don't be afraid to pull this open further. This isn't working. That looks like something else. Um, like more like some of the different consonants you might make. And yeah, I mentioned about the gasp. So yeah, maybe an O or U shape would be in order, and maybe another facial expression or two, like a smile or a frown or something like that. Nitsa, next up. Um, the bandana looks good, although there's a little bit of an irony that we're looking at mouth shapes with the bandana on there, but let's just hide that. Um, so Open, wide, frown, good. Tongue, okay. And yeah, I've mentioned this earlier, but the thing about the tongue is we actually very rarely see somebody's tongue when they're talking, so it's usually not an important thing to animate. It's a very fine detail. Yeah, that's a good F shape where it sort of looks like it's biting the lower lip. That's nice work. So, yeah, good. I think that you definitely want kind of an ooh, like making it small O ooh shape would be the most important thing missing on this one. And yeah, otherwise looking good. Next up is Angela having an issue with the teeth not moving. So let's see if we can troubleshoot that. I can already guess actually. So the two reasons that would be most common for that to happen would be one, that they were not included in the groups when you created the blend shapes, and it looks like these are all grouped together and you selected the groups when you did it, or so that's the first reason. The second reason, which is what I'm guessing it is that when you adjusted the teeth, you moved them rather than move the verts of those. So here I can see y is 4.835 and of upper teeth, and for the base head upper teeth the y is 0.75. So let's go to this and change that to, will this work? 0.75. Where did that go? No. They are. Gosh, I'm wondering, were these moved up after the fact? Okay, not sure. So, hard to know. But, so which head is this? This is the O. Okay, let's take a look at the O. And if you want, you'll notice that if let's do this. Let's change this to the front view. And so this is your target shape I have in the front view. And here I've got the base shape. So if you want this to look like this, notice if I just pick and move these that nothing happens, right? So I'll just go ahead and kind of move these back to where it looks like it does now. However, if I pick them and then go into component mode and then pick all the verts of the teeth and then move the verts of the teeth, aha! So now they do move with it, okay? So that's that's what's going on with that. When you adjusted the position of the teeth, you moved the teeth as objects but not vertices. And if you think about it, it makes sense. And the reason it makes sense is that if they moved to the absolute position of the object in the scene, when you did this slider, the teeth would shoot up through his head and move, to there, right? So you wouldn't want that. So it ignores what's, these objects are made of let's call it a transform node, which includes this information: translate, rotate, scale, visibility, and a shape node, which includes all of the information about the position of the vertices of the shape. So it's two separate nodes with two separate pieces of information. You can actually see that if you want. Let's look at like this upper teeth. Now, right there in the outline, I'm just seeing one node, but by default, and when I pick on it, I just pick the transform node by default. But if I go to display shapes, what you'll see is that there is a transform node and a shape node, both. And the transform node has the translate information. You'll notice the shape node does not have the translate, rotate, scale on it. It only has the position of the vertices stored in there. And you can get into interesting stuff where you can have two objects that share the same shape node but have their own transform nodes, and that's called an instance. It's kind of like a copy. Anyways, that's besides the point. The point of the matter is, you want to fix this. Pick the teeth. Pick the verts of the teeth, not the actual objects of the teeth, and you'll be in good shape. So yeah, this face has a nice shape to it. Good job sculpting on that. Yeah, I think that'll help once you got the teeth moving with that. Head. Yeah, maybe a teeth adjustment there. Snarl looks good. Yeah, so good looking face modeling and good shapes. You can probably go even tighter with the O because like I said before, you don't have to use the full thing. We can see what happens. It's too much. That's not working well. See, sometimes that works nicely, other times not so much. So yeah, but yeah, real good job sculpting the shape, and yeah, go ahead and fix those teeth. All right. Next up is Crav. Open E. Oh, that looks good. Frown and tongue. As I mentioned before, you rarely see tongue animation when someone's talking, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. The thing about the frown is that, I think of a frown as being fairly closed-mouthed, so I might not open it as far and kind of focus more on, pulling the edges down than lifting the middle up. You could go even smaller and rounder on the O shape, give you some flexibility there. That looks useful. The A and E look pretty much identical, so you don't need both of those. Yeah, and that looks like the jaw moving, so that's good. You might want to animate the teeth with it, and as I mentioned in the last one, make sure if you do change the teeth that you select the vertices of the teeth and move the vertices of the teeth, not the whole object. But yeah, these are looking good. Next up is Chris. I like the hat and outfit. It's looking good. Let's take a look at the blend shapes. Yeah, as I mentioned before, you rarely see the tongue in a facial animation, so wouldn't worry. For something like the frown, you don't have to use this whole range when you animate, so it's better to exaggerate more, so you can work within that. It is possible sometimes it can look okay to increase that, but that looks all right. So you can actually go beyond. Yeah, but there it starts to fall apart pretty quickly. Yeah, and again with the snarl, I would go bigger on that as well. Whoa, that didn't work. See, that increasing the number thing doesn't always work. So yeah, definitely could use an O or U shape, and then just generally go bigger with your facial expressions so you have more leeway to work within those. And then you might want to do some teeth adjustments for some of the positions, but if you do, make sure you select the vertices of the teeth when you move them and not just the objects. Next up is Karen. Karen, it would be better to see this in the context of your file, but that's alright. Let's take a look. By that I mean, with the rest of your character. So the blend shape hasn't been created. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, let's take a look. Snarl, frown, tongue. Wide mouth is, expect that to go more out to the sides than, and then open mouth. So yeah, wide, more south to side, more side to side. Open's good. Tongue, we don't see much anyways. Frown, good, but you might want to go further with it. Let's see what going up to 2. Not working really. But the idea is if you go further, you can work within the range you have. And snarl working, but again, I might go bigger on that. So definitely could use an O or U shape for the mouth. Just a small circle shape here as an addition. And then in general, just exaggerate your shapes more.